Right, welcome back. I welcome you again. So today we are going to look at the male reproductive system, the processes, the adaptation, as well as the functions. Right. So now I want us to look at the first part, which is actually part I, according to our diagram. So this one is the scrotum. A scrotum is a bag-like structure that hold and protect the testes. So we can tell that the testis inside the oval-shaped ball is protected by what? By this bag-like structure that is called what? Scrotum. The second protection of the testis, we also have a membrane that is covering, that is found inside the scrotum. That membrane is called a tunica albumin. So the protection of the scrotum or of the testis, it is protected by the scrotum. It is also protected by the tunica albumin. But for exam purpose, protection is only the scrotum. The second function of the scrotum is it also play a role in temperature regulation. So the scrotum regulates the temperature of the testis for optimum sperm production. What does this imply? This implies that the scrotum regulates or monitor the temperature of the testis. Before, in other words, the main requirement for the testis to produce sperm is an optimum temperature. So this part, which is a scrotum, it actually regulates the temperature of the testis for normal sperm production. But we'll look at it in details. Then we have part H. Part H is a testis. A testis, this one is a primary sex organ of a male animal. A testis is a primary sex organ of a male animal. Why are we saying testis is the only primary sex organ of the female? Primary sex organ, these are organs that actually develop before puberty. So the only part of the male that is developed even before puberty is the testis. The rest of the sexual organs here are secondary characteristics because the development there is determined by the increased in level of testosterone. Right. So the main function of the testis produce sperm. The testis also produce testosterone. So we know that the sperm is a male gamete and testosterone is male hormone. So some will say the testis produce male hormone and the testis produce male gamete. That's our sperm cell. Now let's look at it. Before the testis produces what? Sperm. The scrotum here have to monitor the temperature of the testis first. So if the temperature of the testis is low, this one will play a role in increasing it so that optimum sperm is produced. If the temperature of the testis is high, the scrotum will play a role in regulating it to lower it a little bit down so that optimum sperm is produced. Now the question is, what is the role of the scrotum in temperature regulation of the testis? On the hot day, we have what you call a scrotal cremaster muscle. This is the muscle that controls the relaxation and the packing of the scrotum. So we know that on a hot day, the scrotum will hang away from the body. We say it relaxes. So the relaxation, and on a cold day, it will pack, moving very closer to the abdominal cavity or to the body of the animal. The relaxation and the packing of the scrotum is controlled by the muscle. We call it a cremaster muscle of the scrotum. So this determines the upward and downward movement of the scrotum on different environmental or temperature conditions. So we know that it will relax if it is cold, if it is hot, and it will pack closer to the body if it is cold. Right. So Now we understand the relationship between the scrotum and the testis. The scrotum monitor the temperature of the testis, regulate it so that the testis can produce optimum sperm. Now again, we are still on the testis. The structural adaptation of the testis, they will ask you a question. How is part H, that's the testis, structurally adapted to perform its function? And obviously we know the function of the testis is production of male gamete and production of male hormone. That's testosterone. So how is the testis structurally adapted to produce sperm and the male hormone? It's very simple. The testis, if you check in here, there are coiled tubules that are found inside the testis. We say these tubules are called seminiferous tubules. They are very narrow in diameter. These seminiferous tubules is made up of 3 specialized cells. There are 3 specialized cells that are found where in the wall of the seminiferous tubules of the testis. We have the Sertoli cells. Sertoli cells are cells that produce or cells that provide the sperm with nutrients. So the sperm cell within the testis receives nutrients from the Sertoli cells. 2, on the wall of the seminiferous tubules, we also have Leydig cells, or some they call it cells of Leydig. These are cells that are concerned with the production of what? Of testosterone. So if there's a malfunction of cells of Leydig, then we know that testosterone won't be produced. Then the last cell that we're having here, we have an epithelial cells. These are cells that plays a role in spermatogenesis. Epithelial cells, these are cells that are concerned with production of sperm. So the adaptation of the testis is testis made up of 3 specialized cells. The Sertoli cells that provide nutrients for the sperm, Leydig cells that produce testosterone, as well as the epithelial cells that produce the sperm cell. So now you can tell that the testis here produce sperm that is immatured. The sperm produced by the testis will get nutrients from the Sertoli cell, but it is still what? Immatured. Then we have this structure that encircles the testis. This one is an epididymis or epididymis. This is a structure that encircles the testis. This is actually a site where sperm reach what? Maturity. So after the sperm is produced from the testis, immediately when it enters the epididymis, that's where the sperm will reach what? Maturity. So sperm maturation is taking place where? In the epididymis. This is the site where sperm gain its mobility, because there's no way sperm can move without first reaching maturity. So the epididymis, that's where the sperm is what? Matured. It is produced in the testis, transported to the epididymis, where it is what? Matured. From there, if you look at this part, we have the upper part, which is called the head of the epididymis, the middle part, which is called the body of the epididymis, and the last part that is called the tail. Then from the tail, we have this structure. This one is called sperm duct. So I will advise you to refrain from using vas deferens because of our spelling. So the sperm duct, in the wall of the sperm duct, there are sensory nerve endings. So immediately when the sperm steps in to the sperm duct, the muscles in the wall of the sperm duct contract, and it will forcefully push the sperm up here. And this process is called the process of ejaculation. So once the sperm reach the sperm duct, then the muscles in the sperm duct will contract and eventually push the sperm up forcefully, and that's ejaculation. So stay tuned for the next episode, the next 10 minutes. Thank you.